Please don't forget subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notified of new daily videos.
Growing up in Oakhaven Point meant two things: the perpetual smell of salt and decay, and a desperate need to fit in. Our town was dying, much like the old fishing industry that had birthed it. And in that atmosphere of slow decline, conformity became a savage currency. I, Keaton, paid my dues by clinging to Royal and Trey, the undisputed royalty of our high school. And like any monarchy, they needed their jesters, their scapegoats. That was Delia. Delia wasn't just quiet, she was a ghost. Pale, with eyes that seemed to look right through you, she spent every free moment hunched over her latest project. These weren't paintings or sketches. Delia created dream tapestries, intricate, disturbing fabric landscapes woven from whatever she found. Tangled bits of seaweed, iridescent fish scales, rusty pins, and sometimes human hair that she insisted was from a horse. They were beautiful in a morbid, unsettling way, full of patterns that seemed to shift as you stared, depicting scenes that felt both alien and intensely personal. We called her the Stitch Witch, and Royal, with her sharp tongue and even sharper gaze, led the charge. Trey, always mimicking Royal's cruelty, was a close second. I was usually there, laughing, never saying much, just grateful I wasn't the one being targeted. One afternoon, during a talent show assembly, a thinly veiled excuse for an art display, Delia had her largest tapestry yet pinned to the back wall. It depicted a writhing, skeletal forest made of dark, matted fibers, with tiny, shimmering shells forming eyes in the shadows. Royal, fueled by a potent mix of boredom and malice, marched right up to it. With a smirk, she produced a pair of scissors and began snipping, pulling threads, laughing as the intricate tableau unraveled. Trey joined in, tearing at the edges until the forest was a mangled mess. I watched, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach, but said nothing. As they walked away, triumphant, I saw a small, perfectly woven eye made of a single, gleaming abalone chip and dark, coarse threads fall to the floor. Without thinking, I picked it up, slipping it into my pocket. That night, Royal started complaining, not about the tapestry, but about an unbearable itch. "It feels like something's crawling under my skin, Keaton, I swear to God." She'd scratch furiously, leaving angry red welts. There was nothing there. Soon, the itching was constant, punctuated by whispers only she could hear, a low, persistent static that never stopped. I tried to dismiss it, but the memory of that abalone eye in my pocket, and the way Delia had watched us with those unblinking, knowing eyes, wouldn't leave me alone. Then Trey started. First, she said colors looked wrong, bleeding into each other like a smeared canvas. Faces, she claimed, were subtly shifting, their features elongating or contracting. "Your nose looks like it's melting today, Keaton," she'd said once, genuinely horrified. She started avoiding mirrors, then began picking at her fingertips. "They don't feel like my own," she'd mumble, her hands raw and bleeding. Her skin looked stretched, almost like tightly woven fabric. I started seeing Delia more often in the library, her fingers working tirelessly on a new tapestry, the materials for which seemed more grotesque than ever. Twisted roots, iridescent insect wings, and fibers that looked suspiciously like dried sinew. Fear, cold and sharp, began to prick at my conscience. Royal was a walking wound, her skin a landscape of red scratches and phantom bites. Trey was growing gaunt, her eyes wide with a terror I could barely comprehend. The fragment of Delia's tapestry, the abalone eye, felt heavy in my pocket, almost vibrating. One afternoon, I found Delia in a secluded corner of the art room, meticulously sewing. Her latest piece was a vast, dark expanse, filled with unraveling figures, their limbs appearing to fray into nothingness. Hesitantly, I approached her. "Delia," I extended my hand, offering the woven eye. I found this from your old tapestry. I thought you might want it back." She looked up, her usually impassive face betraying a flicker of something, perhaps surprise, perhaps a deep, unsettling satisfaction. She took the fragment, her fingers brushing mine. They felt cold, dry, like papyrus. She didn't say thank you. She just looked back down at her work, her needle glinting as she continued to weave. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the drafty school and quickly retreated. The next week, the air in Oakhaven Point felt heavier, charged with unspoken dread. Royal and Trey, now gaunt shadows of their former selves, cornered me by the old lighthouse pier. Royal's skin was covered in weeping sores, and her eyes darted nervously as if constantly seeing things I couldn't. Trey's hands were a mangled mess, bloody from incessant picking, and her voice trembled with a strange, off-key resonance. "You told her, didn't you, Keaton?" Royal hissed, her breath smelling foul. "You told the Stitch Witch. That's why this is happening." "What are you talking about?" I stammered, my heart hammering against my ribs. "This," Trey shrieked, holding up her mangled hands. "My hands aren't my hands. They're coming apart." Just then, Delia emerged from the shadows of the old lighthouse keeper's cottage, her arms cradling a new tapestry. It was the one I'd seen her working on, a masterpiece of unraveling bodies. Trey, seeing it, let out a guttural cry. "You did this, you freak!" She lunged, aiming for the tapestry, her intention clear, destroy it. But as her trembling fingers reached for the woven fabric, something impossible happened. Her skin, already raw and thin, seemed to peel back, not in flesh, but in strands. Her fingers, then her hand, began to unravel before our eyes, twisting into a grotesque knot of sinewy threads, like a ball of yarn violently pulled apart. A high, choked scream tore from Trey's throat, not of pain, but of utter, soul-shattering unreality. Royal stumbled back, her eyes wide with a terror that finally eclipsed her malice. She looked from Trey's disintegrating hand to Delia's impassive face, then down at her own arm. A patch of skin near her elbow began to shimmer, then stretch, thinning and pulling apart into delicate, almost invisible fibers as if her arm was slowly becoming part of the sea mist. A silent scream ripped through her, but no sound escaped. Just a sickening, guttural gurgle. Trey collapsed, a heap of unraveling fibers and a few remaining bones. Royal, her face twisted in a silent rictus of horror, turned and ran, her dissolving form swaying like a ghost in the twilight. Delia merely watched them go, her gaze returning to me, still holding the tapestry. The eyes woven into its dark expanse seemed to twinkle with a terrible, knowing light. Trey was found a week later, a pile of desiccated organic fibers near the shore. They called it an animal attack, said scavengers had picked her clean. Royal vanished, but whispers about a woman who walks the beaches of Oakhaven Point, her skin peeling away in strips like old parchment, still surface from time to time. Yasin, another one of Royal's lackeys, developed an inexplicable aversion to all fabrics, eventually becoming so terrified he lived naked in a padded cell, claiming the walls were coming apart at the seams. I never asked Delia about what happened. I didn't need to. I saw the power in her creations, the terrible reality she could weave. Now, 10 years later, I live a quiet life in Oakhaven Point. Delia still weaves, alone in her small cottage overlooking the waves. I make sure she has everything she needs, her strange materials, her quiet space. I check on her often, bring her supplies, small comforts, not out of friendship, not entirely. It's an unspoken pact, a vigilance. Because sometimes, when the wind howls just right, or the fog rolls in thick from the ocean, I catch a glimpse of the shifting patterns in my own reflection. I see a thread pulled taut, just beneath the surface of my skin, and I remember that in Oakhaven Point, the fabric of reality is thinner than you think, and some hands are meant to mend it, others to tear it apart. I keep her calm. I keep her supplied. Because some threads, once pulled, can never truly be rewoven, and I'm terrified of what might happen if she ever decides to weave me into her next masterpiece.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button to like it. And please do subscribe to support the channel.